So in this, we are going to discuss about PMFI's third chapter, functions of an ecosystem. In that functions of ecosystem, we talk about succession and homeostasis. Okay, first of all, why functions of ecosystem is important to maintain ecological balance, to regulate climate, and to provide essential services to human survival. Okay, so the functions of ecosystem includes mm, ecological succession or ecosystem development. Ecological succession from one to other, how ecological succession happens, how it developed in ecosystem, how species developed over period of time. In that way, we discuss and feedback control mechanism, which we call homeostasis, and energy flow through flood chain, energy flow through food chain, and nutrient cycling, which we call it as biogeochemical cycling. What do you mean by ecological succession? The process, అదొక ప్రక్రియ by which communities of plant and animal species in an area are replaced or changed into another over a period of time. Replaced or changed into another over a period of time is known as ecological succession. Okay, the process by which communities of plant and animal species in an area replaced or changed ఆ స్పీసీస్ నుంచి వేరే స్పీసీస్ చేంజ్ అయినా or into another over period of time is known as ecological succession. Why it happens? Due to natural or man-made events, destruction, vidvamsam. Now, stages in ecological succession. Let us see stages in ecological succession. Stages in ecological succession. Succession is a directional change in vegetation. Directional change. Succession means directional change in vegetation. On ecological time scale, it involves progressive series of changes. Progressive series of changes with one community replacing another until succession happens, replacing one after another until stable climax community develops. The first plan to colonize area is pioneer community and Margadarsha community, and the final stage is climax community, which is more complex, stable, mature, and long-lasting. The stages leading to climax community are successional stages, which we call it as serial community. In between that transitional community, there are stages of different community. That is, we call serial community. Succession is characterized by increased productivity and the shift of nutrients from the reservoirs, that is nutrient cycles, and increased diversity of organisms and gradual increase in food webs, complexity of food webs. However, succession would occur in the middle of large continent. Okay, this is because seeds of plant belonging to different series would reach faster here. Now, what is primary succession then? Primary succession takes place over an area where community has no existed previously. ఇంతకుముందు ఏ కమ్యూనిటీ ఎగ్జిస్ట్ అయ్యి ఉండకుండా ఉంటే దాని మీద ప్రైమరీ సక్సెషన్ ఉంటుంది, will exist. It include rock outcrops, newly formed deltas, sand dunes, emerging volcano islands, lava flows, and glacier moraines. Glacier moraines is also primary producers, area exposed by retreating glacier, and slopes exposed by landslides. In primary succession on terrestrial site, the new site is first colonized by pioneer species. In terrestrial succession, okay, in terrestrial succession, the new site firstly colonized by pioneer species. In terrestrial ecosystem, microbes and lichens and mosses are the are the primary pioneer species, primary producers. Over a few generations, they alter the habitat through their growth and development. And these mosses and lichens, over the period of generations, they alter habitat through their growth and development. Now, lichens, which are capable of initiating ecological succession even on bare rock, are actually symbiotic association of algae and fungi, not bacteria. Bacteria comes when dead and decomposing matter. Here it is asking initiating, ecological initiating. Here is the keyword is initiating. Mhm. Because algae produce shelter, fungi produce shelter, whereas algae provides food. Okay. In nature, which of the following is likely to be found surviving on surface without soil? Is Moses and lichen. They come on bare rocks like that. Now, the pioneer, the pioneers through their death and decay. Here it is a cycle. Okay, listen carefully. Leave patches of organic material. On that organic material, small animals could live, and during decomposition, the organic matter produce organic acids, and then they release nutrients in turn. Organic debris accumulates in pockets, crevices, and provincing soil, large, and as the community of organisms and the community of organism continue to develop, it become more diverse and new niche developed. Okay, and new conditions may be conducive for additional organisms. So the pioneer species disappear at a habitat condition change or and invasion of new species, leading to replacement of preceding community. Then autotrophic and heterotrophic succession. Autotrophic succession means green plants are much greater in quantity. If consumers are greater in quantity, then it is called heterotrophic succession. What is secondary succession then? Secondary succession is a sequential development of biotic communities after partial destruction of existing community. Secondary succession happens when biotic communities after partially destructed. Explanation: a mature or intermediate community may be destroyed by natural events or storms or human interventions. The abandoned land, first invaded by hardy grasses that can survive on bare rocks, sun-baked soil, or tall grasses. Sooner, herbaceous plants may soon join these grasses and dominate ecosystem. And these dominate the ecosystem along with rabbits, insects, seed-eating birds. Eventually, some trees grows in this area, and which may be brought by wind. Some trees grown by and the seeds of which may be brought by wind and animals. Because of seed-eating birds, seed were brought by wind or animals. Over the years, forest community develops. The abandoned land becomes dominated by trees. Abandoned land becomes dominated by trees. Difference between primary succession and secondary succession. Primary succession is relatively faster than Secondary succession is relatively faster than primary succession. Difference between, okay, because secondary succession starts on well-developed soil, and then what is autogenic and allogenic? Autogenic succession happens because of internal factors. If there is community itself brings succession, how it decomposes when it death and decompose and give rise to new additional organisms. Allogenic succession happens because of chain brought outside forces, outside factors. In grasslands, trees do not replace grasses as a part of ecological succession. Why? Because of water limits and fire. Grasses have one good trick to monopolize places. In the dry season, see the cycle. In the dry season, the grasses dry up and cause fires which destroy other plant species and their seeds, called autogenic succession. Also, grasslands develop in the region with scanty rainfall where plant growth cannot be achieved. Though forests form the climax community in most ecosystem, in the grassland ecosystem, grasses form climax community. Thanks to fire and water, lack of water. Grasslands are the most irreversible, and once deforestation in water scarce areas gives way to grassland. Deforestation in water scarce areas, grasslands వేస్తాయంట. మనం సింపుల్ గా గుర్తుపెట్టుకోవాలంటే ఆటోజెనిక్ సక్సెషన్ అండ్ ఎలోజెనిక్ సక్సెషన్ ని the biotic components of an ecosystem drive autogenic succession. Allogenic succession ante abiotic components. Succession in plants. When the moisture content is low on land, there succession of plants occurs. For example, on a bare rock that we call as zigzag. In water body, we call it as hydrag. In water body, the succession is take place is called hydrag. Both hydrag and zigzag lead to medium water conditions, neither too dry or too wet, medium, average. So within time, xerophatic habitat converted into mesophatic habitat, requiring only moderate amount of water, require only moderate amount of rainfall. Then what about succession in water? So in primary succession in water, the pioneers are phytoplankton is the pioneers pioneer. There are replaced by floating angiosperms, then by rooted by hydrophytes, aquatic plants, sedges, some monocotyledonous plants, grasses, and finally reeds. How the climax again would be forest. As the time passes, the water body is converted into land. Okay, so in succession in water, how it happens? First, it is phytoplankton, then uh, aquatic plants replace it, hydrophytes, then sedges, some plants and grasses, then finally trees. The climax again happen would be forest. As the time passes, water body is converted into land. And then here see we diagrams, crops, submerged free floating, whether taking place in water or land proceeds to a similar climax community called mesic. What is homeostasis in ecosystem? Ecosystem can maintain their state of equilibrium. Ecosystem can maintain the state of equilibrium. They can regulate ecosystem can regulate their own species structure and functional process. Their capacity of the ecosystem of self-regulation. Uh, I mean, to resist self-regulation means to resist change is called homeostasis. What do you mean by homeostasis? The capacity of ecosystem of self-regulation, the capacity of ecosystem to resist change is called homeostasis. For example, in pond ecosystem, if a population of zooplankton increases, then they consume more phytoplankton. Okay, they consume more phytoplankton, which we call as primary producers. And the result, food becomes scarce for zooplankton. When the when the number of zooplankton is reduces because of starvation, the phytoplankton it is like inversely proportional. So these process continues at all tropic levels of food chain. These process continues at all. This process continues at all tropic levels of food chain. Then, in homeostatic system, negative feedback mechanism, an increase in one factor causes. It is a negative feedback mechanism. Increase in one factor causes decrease in other factors, induced by limiting source resources. Because limiting sources వల్ల కలిగినది. It is the scarcity of food and stability, maintaining stability in the ecosystem. The homeostatic capacity of ecosystem is not unlimited, and not everything in the ecosystem is all well regulated. Limited. Homeostasis and limited. So in biological sense, homeostasis is maintenance of stable equilibrium, especially through physiological functions. Through physiological functions like we studied morphological and physiological. Morphological is caused by internal factors, and physiological is caused by external factors. Organisms try to maintain constancy of their internal environment despite varying external environment. Tend to upset uh, organism try to maintain constancy of their internal environment despite varying external environment that tend to upset human. ఇప్పుడు ఒక ఆర్గానిజం can resist change, okay, with their internal environment, but external environment conditions are very harsh and increasing day by day. That upset homeostasis, regulate. Some organisms can maintain homeostasis by physiological means, sweating to cool the body and increasing metabolism to keep body warm. Some by behavior means, animals migrate to like that. All birds are mammals. All birds are mammals. Very few low vertebrate, invertebrate species are indeed capable of such regulation, thermoregulation and osmoregulation. Okay, what do you mean by vertebrate and invertebrate? Vertebrate and invertebrate means animals with spine. Uh, Vertebrate means animals with spine, and invertebrate means animals without spine. They also regulate the internal factor. The success of mammals is largely able to maintain their constant body temperature and thrive whether they live in Antarctica or Sahara Desert. Okay, so mammals can survive in Antarctica in desert places. Plants, on the other hand, do not have such mechanism. Plants do not have such mechanism. Okay, plants do not have such mechanism. Hence, their range is comparatively limited. Conform, and nearly all plants cannot maintain a constant internal environment. The body temperature changes with plants. Body temperature changes with the ambient temperature. In aquatic animals, the osmotic concentration of body fluid changes with that of ambient water concentration. These animals and plants are simply conformers. అంటే దాని చుట్టూ ఉన్న వాతావరణం బట్టి అవి మారిపోతూ ఉంటాయి. సో we call it as conformers. Okay. Then conformers have not evolved to become regulators. Thermoregulation is energetically expensive for many organisms. This is particularly true for small animals. Thermoregulation is energetically expensive, like small animals. Expensive small animals. They have large surface area relative to their value. They tend to lose body weight very fast when it is cold outside and must expend much energy to generate body heat. Most of the food is used through metabolism to generate heat. The main reason is very small animals found in polar regions. That is what the reason. Thermoregulation and osmoregulation. Let us see. Thermoregulation and osmoregulation talk about homeostasis, that able to maintain their body temperature and with the dynamic equilibrium. And then migrate. An organism can away temporarily from stressful habitat to more hospital area and return. It is vice versa. Kioladio National Park in Rajasthan suspend in bacteria, fungi, and lower plants. Various kinds of thick-walled spores are formed in bacteria, fungi, and lower plants. Various kinds of thick-walled spores formed, which help them to survive unfavorable conditions. Okay, they germinate availability of suitable environment. Thick-walled spores in the form of that to survive in unfavorable plant. In higher plants, seeds and some other vegetative reproductive structures and help to tide over periods of stress. In animals, if unable to migrate, the organism might avoid the stress by escaping in time. Hibernating during winter is an example of hibernating. Hibernating means they themselves can change their internal organic process. Okay, small snails and fish goes to uh, estivation, prolonged dormancy of insect, fish, amphibian during hot and dry to avoid summer-related problems. Hibernating, estivation, these are homeostasis mechanisms. Under unfavorable conditions, many zooplankton species in lakes and ponds are known as are known to entire diapause, a stage of suspend development. A stage of suspend development, diapause, pause means suspend development. So this is what about this chapter. But here look, last suspend migration. These topics, small topics, minor topics, we listen for number of times.